Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the IB What's Going On podcast. I'm Ariel and this is Gregory, and we do not have Aiden here today because he is busy being holy. So today we'll be talking more about the Group 1 subjects, which is Studies in Language and Literature. So there are two subjects that are under this group, which is Literature and Language and Literature, which is Langlit for short. So people take it as SLHL Langlit or SLHL Lit. Most people take SL Langlit, but there are, like, in our school, there are 2 HL Langlit classes and 1 HL Lit class.
So what exactly is Langlit? Ariel and I take SL Langlit, which is basically language and literature. So as the name implies, we will be analyzing two different aspects in this subject. So for example, language analysis would be, they'll give us advertisements or, like, for example, prose, which is basically just a long chunk of text, like for example, articles or poems. Poems is a separate thing. But so we'll be given different pieces of media and we're supposed to analyze it. So for example, for language, we have to analyze advertising techniques and how they use different wordings, different visual effects, or like users imagery or symbolism or whatnot. They go and analyze and how it makes it effective in selling their product or their course. And for literature, we have 2 different books that will be assigned to us. So for ACSI, the 2 books will be chosen and it will be set standard throughout the entire school. Everybody will be doing the same exact books. But at least for the other IB school, we like to say SGI.
Yes, we mentioned that already.
So at least for SGI, every single teacher will be able to choose their own set of texts. So for example, a certain teacher will choose Tempest and
Broken April,
which
is what I am doing. Yes.
Thank you. But for another teacher, will be doing text, for example, a Greek tragedy called Antigone or Waiting for the Barbarians. And we'll be analyzing our own different texts with different final exams and questions. So would you like to talk about IOs?
Okay, wait, before I talk about IO, there are also non-literary texts that we cover. Like, for example, one non-literary text that I have is Man of Steel, which is a movie. So yes. Okay, now on to IO. So IO is basically you just talk for 10 minutes and you have to memorize everything that you say, because no script, no nothing, no like write on your hand, just talk for 10 minutes. And then after that, you'll have 5 minutes of your teacher will ask you questions about what you said for like 5 minutes and basically grind you until like they get what they want, I guess. And we have to link our text to like 5 fields of inquiry, which is culture, identity, community, beliefs, values, education, politics, power, justice, art, creativity, imagination.
Ma'am, that's 1 and 5.
Science, technology, environment. It's like 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Yes.
Okay, so basically what she's talking about is global issues.
Yes.
Global issues that pertain to like how we govern the world or how we interact with our neighboring countries and our cultural relations with others. So when we analyze our text in IO, we need to link it to one of the global issues. And under every global issues, there are 3 subtopics or subcategories that we can focus on. So for example, under the global issue of power, we have politics, justice, and law, or is it beliefs? I have no clue, honestly.
Justice.
So under each global issues, there are different subcategories that we can focus on, or we can choose to focus on the whole entire global issue as a whole. And so we have to link it all. So for example, let's take a look at the literary text that I'm doing, Antigone. It talks about how there's a difference between the laws that the gods give you and the laws that are imposed upon you by the state or your government. So that would be the difference between justice. So it's like, if I enact justice onto you, is that enacted onto you by the gods, or is that enacted to you by people, by the government? And that will be a thematical argument that I have to go and analyze throughout the entire text using different quotes and literary devices.
What? Okay, so some examples of what we do during Langlit is like, for me, my teacher made us do like a debate, like about about some controversial issues, like for example, critical race theory. So we basically just had like an actual formal debate, like 3 minutes per person or something, 2 to 3 minutes per person or something like that. I can't really remember. But yeah, it was basically to train our speaking skills in preparation for the IO. And then we also had a few assessments, like we had to analyze a Time magazine cover for our graded assignment. And we also have to do multiple presentations. And there's a lot of group work involved, at least for me. And yeah, you just really have to understand, like have good language skills, which I do not. But yeah.
Really. Ability to articulate and express your thoughts
Sorry.
concisely and with the apt language.
But I am a prime example of someone who did not take lit at all in secondary school and coming to IB, completely forgetting everything that I learned in Sec 1 and Sec 2 about lit. So yeah, but I'm here. So yeah.
For my class, what we did for language and literature was our teacher got us to each analyze 2 pages of our text Antigone, and we would have to link up the text to a global issue. So for example, mine was about justice. Other people would do on power or belief systems, cultural divinities and whatnot. So they'll link up to our global issues and analyze all of the different stanzas using literary devices to see how it helps to support the notion or go against the notion of the global belief and what claim the author is trying to make. So for example, the claim that an author could possibly make is that we should follow the gods and not humans. So we will look at the text and see if the text agrees with the claim or not. And afterward, we would have to, that will be the literature side. And the language side would be, we are meant to find a piece of mass media text. So for example, it could be a lyric video, a music video, a movie clip, random books, text, literatures, and whatnot. And we're supposed to see how those pieces of mass media text links up to our literature text and see how it either goes against or aligns with what the author claims in the text. Mine focuses much more on individual work and the ability to like come up with a presentation and to teach the class. So something like a lecture style where you are given assignments and you just go in front of a class to go and teach the class instead of the teacher, and the teacher will just give you comments or criticisms.
Criticisms.
So this would be our individual aspect. For our group aspect, I mean, a lot of people come into IB thinking that we'll have a lot of group projects and group works, which is quite true at the beginning because they need to ease you into the IB system. But as you go along, there'll be less and less group projects. At least for me, my first ever project was a group project, and it was for us to go on to Kickstarter and to look at all of the different prospective new technologies that are being developed. And we're meant to create some advertising campaign using all the advertising techniques that we were taught to help to sell the product and to create like a whole entire advertisement trailer to go and sell the product. And after we have to include things like, for example, poster design or like what kind of community we're hoping to reach, what's the demographic we're targeting, what's the price ranges, how do we convince people that our product is better than the rest. So you have to employ a lot of different literary devices or techniques. So for example, you have to do just a short example, you have to do something like a weasel claim. So it's like saying, we are the best, but they're not saying we are the best at what. So you can't exactly dispute such a claim because when I clarify, I could always just say, we are the best in our field. And even then, that is also a weasel claim because what exactly is your field? None of this is defined, but it makes it seem as if it gives this idea of grandeur and like, we are the best at everything and that you should come to us because we offer something better than our competitors. So that is an example of a literary device that we use.
Also, I forgot to mention this just now, but yes, apart from the debates and like the essays and everything, my class recently, we had to like act out a certain scene from our text, which was the Tempest. So it was pretty casual and like, but you know, it just helps us in our IO a lot. And also, I don't know if it's just my teacher, but then the assessment style is quite strange because my teacher doesn't tell us what is graded and what is not graded. So in the end, everything is graded. Yes. And then, yeah, so basically you have to put in a lot of effort for every single assignment that your teacher gives to you. I mean, it's not just because it's graded or not graded.
It's
You
expected
should
of
do
you
it
to do
for
it.
everything. But yeah, you just need to be proficient. But if you're really struggling with like Langlit and everything, then you can just approach your teacher and ask him for help and stuff. Yay.
I mean, coming from O levels, we often say that all assignments and homeworks are important, but some are more important than others. Graded work. But in IB, we forgot to mention previously that there's this thing called effort grade, which basically just looks at all of your non-graded assignments, and it takes into account the amount of participation in class, whether you hand in homework on time, whether you're a troublemaker, and you're given an effort grade from A to C, I think. So it's like, it might not affect your final results, but it will reflect poorly on your behavior or conduct. And it won't look very nice if you score like a 45 point out of 45 point, but all of your effort grades are at C. So it is quite important for you to go and put in effort to every single project. Now, shall we talk about the difference? Shall we talk about what A level offers? For example, GP and their version of the orals?
Okay. So from our understanding of GP, since we don't take GP, like you're supposed to like have there are like 12 questions of different topics in paper 1, and the topic areas are derived from issues that are drawn from across like disciplines and issues of like local interest and global concern. So for example, there's like social media, society, politics, law, culture, marriage, and yeah, it's just supposed to pick one question out of the 12 questions. And write 500 to 800 words.
So it's something like what we have in IB, which is we want to link it to global issues. Because at a junior college level, it's quite important that we no longer stay within the Singaporean bubble or like within our own teenage self. We want to expand our breadth of knowledge. So we want to have this thing called global engagement, where we actually go out and read the current affairs of other countries and find out how exactly Singapore fares with other countries, or what problems plague other countries, and how that affects Singapore, or how we can help to mitigate such issues within our own country as well.
And yeah, there's added difficulty on that paper because you need a very wide range of knowledge, and you have to like be very well versed in like the things that you're gonna talk about. So yeah, and that's pretty different from Langlit, I guess, because like A levels is mainly like global stuff and like issues and stuff, but then Langlit, you also have like the lit part, which GP doesn't have. Yeah.
So for example, an example of a GP essay for A level would be like what you already know, which in secondary school is called argumentative essay or expository essay. So they'll probably ask you questions like, for example, at a Singaporeans level, like, locally, we have questions such as the debate between single-sex schools and co-ed schools. But if you expand it to the global issue, it'll be things like, for example, I don't know. Like, how has globalization impacted education? Or like, how has globalization impacted terrorism? How has the rise of technologies affected how we commute, how we live our life? How has affected transmission of diseases? These sorts of things that require a lot of general knowledge. You need to be well versed in different topics that affect the world. So for example, like, you need to know things like current conflicts, like, the war in Libya or Syria, or at least the one that's most recent that people know of is like Ukraine. I don't know if it's applicable, but there are moments where it might apply depending on your year's topic. For example, just a random fun fact, the Amber Heard Johnny Depp case is actually receiving more social media attention than the Ukrainian-Russia war, which is quite... It says something about our society, Celebrities get more attention than a whole entire humanitarian crisis, but whatever. So, for example...
Whatever.
So this little American drama serial thing called The Court of Law is being live streamed all over, and you can take knowledge... you can take all of your knowledges that you have gained from that, and after you can apply it to your GP. So for example, you can talk about litigation, which is basically just lawyer stuff. Wow.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that is GP. And that is
IB's
different
clearly better.
from IB. Yes.
Nobody likes to talk about Amber Heard's case. IB's clearly better.
Highs. Okay, that was like my 100th highs of the day. Okay, so now let us invite our special guest. Who shall it be?
Shi Nuo!
Shi Nuo! Yay, okay. Okay. Yes. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Shi Nuo and I take HR Lit. So today I'll be talking about HR Lit and SL Lit. So first of all, for HR Lit, for the assessment part, we have IO, and then there's also the HR essay, which is under the IA component, and then there's paper 1 and paper 2. So for HR and SL Lit, you'll have to do the IO, paper 1 and paper 2. But then the only additional component is the HR essay. So for HR Lit, you'll have to study 13 texts over 2 years, and for SL Lit, you'll have to study 9 texts. So that sounds like a lot of text, and it sounds like a really daunting task to go through all of that.
Yes, it is.
But no, you don't have to be well versed in every single text that you're doing. So.
You don't have to score 7 out of 7 or so, you can score a 1!
Shut up, Gregory.
I'm
Continue.
kidding.
So for the individual oral for HR Lit and SL Lit, you'll be talking about how a text that's written in English and how a text that's translated from another language to English will apply to a certain global issue. So you can derive this global issue from 5 areas of inquiry, which Ariel has mentioned earlier. So
What about me?
You
I
didn't
also
say
mentioned-
anything.
I mentioned about the global issues.
and Gregory.
Thank you.
So as they both mentioned earlier, for 10 minutes, you'll refer to the script that you've memorized in your head and talk about how the global issues are shown in these 2 texts. And after that, for the remaining 5 minutes, your teacher will be grilling you with questions on how, basically to expound your views and elaborate more on what you said earlier. So for the HR essay, you'll also be talking about how a global issue is seen in one of the texts that you've studied. So if you don't know what to talk about in your essay, you can use the 7 key concepts that IB has shown as a point of departure for your essay. So there's identity, culture, creativity, communication, perspective, transformation, and representation. So you can refer to these if you don't know what you want to write about in your HR essay. And these, for IO and HR essay, you'll both be given time to do it before you have to submit it to IB. So your teacher will have you do mock IOs, and you also have to submit a draft for your HR essay. So you will have time to improve on your essay and your IO if you realize that your first draft is kind of wonky and it's not good enough for your final submission.
Sounds like a lot of effort. Isn't this why you should take Langlit over Lit?
But HR Lit has the sexiest stats out of HR Lit, HR Langlit, SL Lit, and SL Langlit.
That is true.
So, it is a really challenging course, but it's really worth it in the end. So, all of my friends went from acing Lit in secondary school to getting grade 4 for Lit now. But it's fine because... Wait, can I say our school?
Yeah.
Oh, in SJI, fun fact, my seniors all get grade 7 for paper 1, so it's fine.
Wow.
I could
Slay.
never.
Okay, so for paper 1, they'll give you 2 unseen excerpts of literary texts, and you basically have to write literary criticisms for both of them. And for paper 2, you're going to do a comparative essay of 2 texts that you have read in year 6.
So out of your 13 books,
Wait, no, it's out of the books that you read in year 6.
So what about the books that you read
so
in
what
year
about the
5?
books? Do you not have to read all 13 books?
Yeah, but then for this year, I just need to choose 3 texts for IO and HR essay. Then next year, I'll be doing 4 more texts.
So you want to be strategic about it, where you have 13 texts in total, and you have to do 3 of them in year 5, and another separate 2 of them in year 6?
For comparative essay.
Can they repeat?
I don't think you can double dip. I'm not very sure. So, okay. But for paper 2, they will give you 6 questions. So 2 for poetry, 2 for drama, and 2 for prose. So you basically have to compare both the texts and then make sure that it addresses the themes and the questions.
Okay, so now we have the HL Langlit person, and let's welcome Adriel.
Hello.
So yes, what is HL Langlit all about?
Okay, so HR Langlit is basically like Langlit but on like steroids, like Langlit to the max. And so I think most of the time the people who end up in HR Langlit are like if you are in HR Langlit, you are not normal, because everyone in HR Langlit is they are all like, we are all attracted to basically like, I don't know, just talking about like contemporary issues, or like thinking we're damn smart and then like talking like a lot of trying to sound smart. And it's like for those like HR lit rejects. So HR Langlit is like the like nice middle ground, like you're not good enough to do like the full like literary analysis, but you still want to like have like a taste of it. Yeah, so I would say that HR Langlit is quite interesting because personally I like to read. Yeah. So there's a lot of reading. So if you don't like to read, then there's no point. And like, I think one of the main parts of Langlit, or like HR Langlit in general, is it gets you to like overanalyze a lot of things, which is not very good if you're an overthinker. But then like if you're
so there's like,
but like by overanalyzing thing, I think it's quite interesting, because
you have to talk about
you can like figure out all the hidden meanings of like text.
So it's similar, just that what is expected
Pictures.
of you is like a lot more.
Yeah, for instance, like
HL.
like in some posters, they will make like this one guy
There's
like
also
stand on
the
the right,
essay,
and this other
Langlit
person
essay.
stand on the
So
left.
it's basically
and then
like
it's supposed to
IO,
like
just that instead of talking,
imply
you're
that
writing.
instead of talking is like right, and then you're writing like a lot.
What?
Huh?
And exactly, it's like quite strange. Just on my
For the past few years, they
Might as well be
are
right hand, left hand.
yeah, and then like
last type
exactly,
of
and
assessment
afterwards it's like
forgot
then
what it's called.
there'll be
Isn't it
those
like
like
paper tree
propaganda
or like
posters, and then you have to
paper
like
tree, right?
yeah, so you
Yeah.
just have to memorize, and it's like it's
and then you have
it's
to write about it.
Instant paper tree.
paper tree is like you
So
have.
what's the exam?
I'm not sure, my
style,
teacher hasn't told me, but it sounds
assessment
quite scary. So there's so the difference
Firstly,
between
that's the IO,
HL and
which is
SL
basically
is like
just-
you bring like
HL has a lot more
content to
to
go.
go
It's like
through.
it's
So
similar to SL.
SL
You
has
bring in a few
4
bullet
texts,
points, so you just talk about.
but
your
HR has
text.
6.
So it's like 2
books.
more, like books.
Oh, we have like 2.
Oh, you have 2.
Yeah.
We're supposed to
three.
have 4. I think it's like
Like
2
around
in,
there, yeah.
2 in year 5, 2 in year 6.
Yeah.
So we have 3, which is like the one book, it might not seem that significant, but it's like it makes everything super like much more hectic, because the depth that we go through is also like much greater, and like we try to go through this greater depth in a shorter amount of time. So like after every Langlit lesson, right? Like you'll see during our Langlit lessons, everyone just be like scribbling on their paper like mad. Like you won't like your hand will just zoom, and then like you will just like use up all your post-it notes damn quickly. And after the lesson, like your brain will just be fried.
How do you go through your books?
We have like nowadays we have presentations, because like our teacher wants to train us for IO. So like she'll split up a chapter into like different parts, and then each pair will do like a few pages. So we'll just analyze. We won't like do the entire page. We'll just analyze, like we'll pick certain parts of the thing that we think are like interesting or like very significant, and then we'll just talk about it. And so we have to like elaborate on it a lot more. So we have to talk about like the context, the implications, and like real world issues that it leads to. So it's a lot more like elaboration, like PEEL.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like there's a lot of like elaboration and like evaluation. So like for instance, from like one line of text in the book, we can talk for like 5 minutes or like 5-10 minutes. Yeah, okay, but that's like the extreme. Mostly it's just like 5 minutes or less. Yeah, but it shows that we like a lot more is expected of HL students. Oh yeah, and during the HL, I think the paper one, SL students do one text, but then HL students have to do both.
Oh yeah.
So we're like, so we just go there to get our brains fried.
Paper 1 is unseen, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Mm-hmm. And like any text type. So like they can give you like an obituary or like yeah, my teacher, the other time like someone said like we were like looking at something and then like the like topic of obituary came out and she was like, you have to read more of these so you know the language to use when like analyzing obituaries. And then we're like, okay.
Why is this ransom note effective at communicating a message?
Yeah, exactly. Then you have to like, then what context? Hello. Yeah, but HR, okay, but all lit teachers are like strange. Yeah, true. They're also strange. It's part of the trade. I think HR Langlit isn't for everyone, but if you enjoy overthinking text and like non-literary text and you like to link the things you read to like contemporary issues, then it might be interesting for you because it helps you to become not just like a spectator in the world because they force you to understand like the deeper happenings of like the media that you consume. So instead of just like feeling and thinking about the stuff that the like producer of the text wants you to feel, you like go one level deeper and you think about the way that they make you feel this way. So it like makes you feel like super smart and like some like mastermind because you see like the inner workings of the way like text like books or like non-literary text influences you and how you think. So it's like interesting, but it's not for everyone. Yeah.
Do you have to have like prior lit experience, to take HR Langlit?
Oh, okay. For me, right, I am particularly crazy because I didn't take lit in secondary school. Okay, I took lit in Sec 1 and Sec 2, but I hated it and I did super, super bad for it. And then I didn't take it in Sec 3, Sec 4. And then like, I don't know, like I got possessed and like suddenly I decided to take HR Langlit in IB. Okay, so basically I chose to do HR Langlit because I was... Okay, firstly, I couldn't do any other of the subjects on like HR level. So I was like, that's like one of the reasons. And then secondly, I was like, because I like writing a lot. About like, it's not, okay, as in writing as in like, sometimes when I think of like a subject that I'm interested about, I just like pull up a Google Docs and I'll just type out like a 500-word like commentary on it.
Oh, the Ligivai, all of the different posts, all of the
Yeah, it's basically just like my thoughts on like stuff. So it's like, the implications on like the social environment, blah, blah, blah.
the Russia-Ukraine war, the contemporary issues of the world.
Yeah, so I was like, I need to be like trained, like formally educated in the arts of like talking nonsense. So I decided to take HR language.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned earlier, there's I/O, and for the presentation part, they also have a lot of presentations in HR Lit. So for instance, in my first term, my teacher covered The World's Wife by Caroline Duffy, which is essentially a compendium of poems by her. So each of us has to choose a poem to present on. So ideally, we're supposed to use 20 minutes to state our RQ and use various critical claims, which are essentially just like assertions or like different points, to explain how like different parts of the poem link to that, and you also link that to global issues. But if you are scared that you won't be able to cover the poem fully in 20 minutes, no worries, because like it drags on for the entire hour. And if your teacher feels that you aren't saying enough, they will usually add in like additional guiding questions at various junctures in your presentation. And she also does allow the class to participate, and she does like stop at various moments to ask the class if they have like any additional inquiries or like things that they want to add on to what the speaker has said. So you don't have to worry that you won't have sufficient preparation in class for I/O, because your teacher will make sure that you have. So for Tempest, we do like a 5-minute commentary. Each of us has to do a 5-minute commentary on like a global issue for 20 to 40 lines of the text. So that's like half of the time taken for your actual I/O, because in your I/O you have 10 minutes. So my teacher makes sure that like everyone does it well for the I/O, for the Tempest commentary, because if you don't, you have to redo it, and I'm one of those clowns.
I have to say, my favorite part about IB is that like the whole entire redoing part, in O levels, you might often hear this phrase where, wow, everybody did so well, everybody presented amazingly, all of you guys gave great ideas, but then you end up having a wide range of marks, with some of them failing despite being amazing presentation and great ideas. Well, no, you come to Ivy, if you do badly, your teacher will just cut you off and say, why never present? Why never go and prepare? Go and redo.
Yes, be prepared for the constant diatribe and verbal onslaught from your teachers when you mess up. Although, like, that will shape you into a better literary critique so that you do well for your IB exams.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Slay. Okay, so based on what I know from my friends who are taking H2 literature under the A-level system,
Compose yourself. Do not give in.
okay, they will study 4 texts and they only have like exams to take. So they also have to compare books that they will be doing, and there's also unseen papers and whatnot. But for IB, there's also the internal assessment component, which A-level kids don't have. So from what I know for A-level literature, from my friends who are taking it, you have to study 4 texts, whereas for IB, you have to do 13 texts if you're doing HR Lit. But the thing is that for A-level, since you only have 4 texts, and it's like, the texts that you can do are like standardized for everyone. It's just that each school chooses the text that they'll be covering from the list that the A-level provides. You have to be exceptionally well-versed in like every single text, from what I know, whereas for IB, you can choose like which text you want to be more well-versed in, but for A-level, even if you don't like your text, you just have to like suck it up and read the text and be well-versed in the text that your school has chosen for you to study.
So Ivy is quantity over quality.
Yeah,
Yay!
yeah, and sometimes like it may be a little restrictive for the text that they have chosen. But for Ivy, you can cover like virtually your teachers can choose like virtually anything that they want you to do. So if you're interested in doing Lit EE, which is another component of IB, extended essay, then you'll have to write around like 3.2k words to 3.6k words about a book or 2 books. So there's Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3, but all you need to know is that for Cat 1, you're doing like 1 book which is written in English, and then for category 2, if you're planning to do a text which was translated to English, then you have to compare that to another book which is also a translated text. So that means like more books to cover and more books to read. So in your extended essay, you have to frame your own research question on how you would like to explore the text or the 2 texts that you'll be covering. So you'll also have to read a lot of literary criticisms and to see how other people have interpreted this text, and to make sure that the way you're critiquing it is like correct in a sense.
So something really important when you're choosing your text would be you need to know like the history behind it. So for example, the literary text that I chose for my Lit EE was Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. So I need to look back into the past and see at that point of time what is the contextual understanding and why was it written, and like what was the point he was trying to drive at that point of time, and how this text is able to carry forward into our current present and like how it applies to our daily lives. So for example, it talked about greed of men and colonialism, and how like power corrupts all and that morality is ambiguous. So Heart of Darkness, at a point of time when Joseph Conrad wrote it, he talked about a lot of deeper issues that plague them about colonialism. And if you carry it forward to the modern day, we can talk about how Heart of Darkness applies to different ventures, for example, America and Vietnam, or like how they tried to do the same in Syria and Libya, but it ended up poorly. So these texts, even though they were written a long time ago, they're still relevant in our current day and time and our day and age. So we need to be able to link it together and see how has the times changed and how is it still relevant today.
If I'm not wrong, there's also a category 3, right?
Cat 3. What's Cat 3?
Oh yeah, so for
Non-literary, not like a text that's not a book, something like that, right?
yeah, so for instance, I know there are people who like use a speech or like shows to talk about something that they want to explore. But of course, like because it's under group 1, language and literature, the main focus of it is on the language itself. So even if you want to cover songs and whatnot, if you do want to talk about the music, that's just like an extra thing, but you mainly have to focus on the language used in the lyrics.
Yes.
So something important to note is that, like, for example, let's say you want to do a song and that song talks about a certain issue. what you're analyzing isn't so much so the issue and the prevalence of it. It's more so how does the song and its lyrics help to convey that issue and like bring the point forward. Or like, for example, let's say we do something like, let's say you choose a random drama or like a random show, for example, Simpsons. So we talk about like the modern family and the American dream. But even though that may be your contextual understanding of it, you cannot actually talk so much on the on the American dream. It's more so how does the show use its different literary devices. So you have to look at the transcript and see how like it brings forward the point that the American dream is what that the author claims.
Yes, and I heard from other people that there are some people who are doing Shrek EE, an EE about Shrek. There's some people my friend is doing an EE about Barbie. You can basically pick stuff that you want.
I'm a
And
Barbie
also,
girl.
my teacher said that category 2 is academic suicide.
Because you have to do two different texts and none of them are in English, so it might not translate very well. And even translations are open to interpretations between different authors, so you need to look at different versions of the translations by different people. If you want to survive, do not do Lit EE. If you want to do Lit EE, do Cat 1 and keep it simple.
Or be like me, do a science EE. I haven't even got to confirmation yet.
You're doing a Chinese EE.
No, Chinese is my second choice. Yes. We'll talk more about EE in later episodes. Yes. Okay, so now we have come to the end of our
Listening
episode
comprehension.
about Group 1 Language and Literature, Studies in Language and Literature. So please give us your feedback and also please like, share and subscribe. This podcast is brought to you by the IB What's Going On team composed of Aiden, Gregory, Ariel, Ethan, Darren and Heather. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you very much.